We're talking about AI today, and we've heard a lot actually also yesterday. So those of you who have been at the symposium yesterday know that AI is kind of everywhere. And actually any topic that we talk about, AI seems to come up. So it's nothing that we can just grab and talk about AI as its own, but it's kind of starting to be involved in our daily lives and all the workflows that we have. And as a technology that kind of saves problems in a unified way. I always keep going and say, well, AI is, of course, artificial intelligence. But to me, at the moment, it's something like automation increase. Because this is what it is. It's not to really have an intelligence as such, but to automate things, to make our lives easier, and basically help us to work more efficiently. Has anybody of you heard the MIT announcements just very recently, a couple of days ago? They have announced that they want to invest, I think, $1 billion for an own AI subsidiary at the MIT. Which is, I think, great news. So it seems to be a technology that really helps us. And also, of course, our industry is benefiting from it. Yesterday, we've also heard that AI can help in a lot of areas. We've had a presentation from Affectiva, so it's going into AI detecting emotions, and we have a great presentation on this later on today, as well as in the automotive area. So I'm wondering if maybe lie detectors can be also used instead of, be replaced by AI. So it's kind of, it seems to really look at us, humans, and inside what we think. So in fact, we do have 8 speakers for the AI session. It's diverted into 3 smaller parts, 3 sessions. The first one this morning, the second one this afternoon, and the third one tomorrow afternoon. So stay tuned. There are a lot of great presentations. We have 3 great presenters this morning. And I want to introduce actually our first one. So I'm not stealing his time to make a lengthy introduction. We've Jason Perr with us. He's from Workflow Intelligence Nexus and a media workflow automation specialist. And he will tell us a bit more how AI will affect our workflows and where we can benefit from AI. Jason, please come on stage.
Thank you. So the talk I am giving here, I titled, "The Automated AI Workflow is Here, If You Know Where to Look." So a lot of people, when they think about AI, they talk about how AI is coming and it's the future. And we talk about all these new groundbreaking technologies, but a lot of people don't seem to realize sometimes that it's already here. And if you're not already using it, in a lot of respects, you can be falling behind. So we talk about the promise of AI, right? We've been told that it can make things easier for users to be able to find what they need when they're digging through large amounts of content. That it can be used as a simple process to be able to extract metadata. Whereas in the past, we've always known this to be something that can be very painful or just has to be manual and has to always be done by individuals looking at content. And the promise of it being able to learn from an existing library to be able to use that information to analyze new content is one of the big things that people see as a great potential for this technology. So the question is, when will AI be here? And in my opinion, the answer is today. The key thing is being able to filter out the noise of all of the different marketing speak and all the different things out there of people making promises and talking about all these different things to really find the tools that will work for your specific workflow. And in a lot of ways, in my opinion, what I've seen is that comes down to finding the right MAM, or Media Asset Management System. In my opinion, these two things go hand in hand, because the greatest AI tools out there don't really do very much if you're simply logging into a tool's website, having to upload a piece of content manually and analyze it. That doesn't really help you. So what it requires, in my opinion, is an open MAM system. So the question is, what makes an open MAM system? It was a lot of different things. In my opinion, one of the biggest pieces is having a very robust, well-documented, automatically updated API. And some people would say, well, why is that important? If the MAM's going to provide all these great tools, why do I need that API? And the real answer to that is the fact that no matter how good the tools are of the MAM, it's not everything. Most MAMs will give you a couple great things, but they're never going to give you everything. So beyond that, having that API be something that's incredibly well supported, having it be something that has extensive access into the application of the rest of the MAM is what's going to enable you to use AI tools across your content library in a very powerful way. So we talk about metadata gathering. And how did this all start, right? And originally, we had nothing, not so long ago. In the broadcast days, we had just video on tape that was cataloged with metadata being what was on the sleeve, right? And then, as we started to transition into digital, we had embedded metadata, where at least we could get information off of the file itself. So we knew technical information about maybe where the file came from and what might be in the file as far as technical resolutions and things. Then we got into basic asset management system, where now we had tools to be able to store all of our content together and organize those tags so we could search across it, and that was nice. And we got to custom metadata so we could tag these things and be able to search based off of information someone could look at a video and add metadata tags to. And then not so long ago, we started getting into a lot of advanced automations where we could write code and hire people to write code to automatically read that embedded metadata and apply it in ways that can become more meaningful to our users. And so by using this, we've made big strides of being able to make large libraries of content accessible. But now we get to this place where we have asset management systems with strong open APIs that enable the AI piece of it. And what that means is instead of having to pull information from all these different resources that sometimes just aren't there, we can now search the content itself for what's actually happening in the content to generate our metadata. And that's going to be hugely important, especially when people start working with more and more of their historical libraries that don't have a lot of data around it. So the question is, where do you find this AI? And really, in my opinion, there's two different places. You find it built into the asset management systems themselves. You find things like facial recognition sometimes, automated meta tagging based on certain kind of events that might happen, creating new content into the system, or being able to do things like searching across transcriptions or searching across data that was added to a system manually. But in so many ways, it's just the tip of the iceberg of what's possible. There's tools available today that we have and we see implemented across many organizations, doing things like phonetic searching, keyword spotting, voice recognition, transcriptions, object recognition, being able to do audio fingerprinting so you know who's speaking at what point in time throughout different parts of a video, geolocation and OCR, as well as other things. So what are the benefits of being able to utilize all these tools? Well, at the end of the day, it's all about better accessibility and visibility across your entire library of content. Being able to know what's really in that content from things that may have been shot 10, 15, 20 years ago and are just part of this library that have been building. And yeah, today's stuff might get a lot of metadata, but if yesterday's stuff doesn't have it, then you're losing value. So it's about bringing rich metadata to this new content quickly and at a low cost. No matter how much some of these tools can cost, in comparison to the human element of having people having to watch this content and go through and manually tag it, it's always been a large cost savings when I've seen any analysis of it. And then it's about raising content awareness across an organization. What that means is you have organizations out there that have thousands or hundreds of thousands of hours of content, but in reality, the tools they're using today only give them visibility into that content from the last 1 or 2 years, maybe, started tracking. AI gives us the ability to look into that whole historic library and unlock all of the metadata of that content to make the whole library searchable, accessible, and open for automation. So let's talk about where AI brings relief to be able to alleviate different kinds of pain points within these organizations. It's not uncommon for me to see an organization that has hundreds of thousands or thousands of hours of content. It's all sitting on a large SAN or NAS, petabytes of content just sitting there. And the primary organization is normally a large, complicated directory structure, a long file naming convention that, quite frankly, has probably changed 1 or 2 times over the past number of years. So sometimes, if you're able to search for that file based off of the metadata and the file name and the folder names, you could find it. And the primary search mechanism a lot of these organizations have is a mechanism called RALPH. But RALPH is normally not actually an acronym for anything. It's actually the one guy in the organization who knows where to find anything. And if you lose RALPH, it's all over. So what's the relief? What we've seen a number of times is bringing in some kind of asset management system. And these days, I find there's no excuse. It used to be, if you talked about asset management, it was, oh, we got to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or $1 million to get into this large system. And that gives you all these capabilities that the MAM vendor says is exactly what you need for your workflow. They'll spend all their time and money trying to convince you they have the tools that you need. If you just spend that couple $100,000, you could find out. But today, you can actually get into incredibly powerful asset management systems, hybrid cloud systems that don't even require you to make any hardware investment for them. So you have a $0 infrastructure cost. There's literally no excuse to not at least try it with one of these kinds of systems. You have a single application at this point that could monitor and manage all of your content globally. Again, in these low-cost systems, it's available out there that you have one system that you can now see all the content, not just in one facility, but all your facilities, all in one place. And what does that give you? That gives you the ability to actually extract and extrapolate all of that important metadata from your entire library with one powerful engine or a couple different powerful engines. You can sit on top of that content. So it begs the question, this all sounds great, but how do I make it work? How can you get AI to work for you in your organization? And the number one thing to me is that it's all about finding the right partner, finding that right integration or customization kind of company. And I say that specifically because one of the biggest, I'll say many times, mistakes, not always a mistake, but one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make for their workflow is that they're going directly to buy the technology, right? I want to buy the system that's going to come in and do all this for me. I want to go to the people who make the system because they know it best. And if I go to them, they're going to build this for me and they're going to do all these things. But what my experience has shown is that normally that's not the best path. Normally you want a third party involved. You want some kind of integration company that knows this stuff inside and out, or even better as a consulting company or someone, a professional who knows not just AI, but your workflow inside and out. Because as I mentioned before, the most powerful thing about an asset management system and the most important thing to look at is how open it is. And if you're planning to plug in all these other great technologies and utilize all the best of the best systems and AI can offer today, you're not going to get that in one system or one vendor. It just doesn't exist. So find the right integration company or customization company. And communication with that company is key. It's not about going in and knowing, hey, I want to use these different AI platforms. It's about being able to find someone who can understand your pain points and being able to express those pain points and express the vision that you have for your content and how you want to work with it. Because especially with AI and all the tools that are available today, I can tell you there's been very, very few workflows I've ever heard someone describe that they wish they could have that was not attainable already today. The only ones that aren't attainable are the ones you don't vocalize or that you don't come up with. And I always say never compromise on your vision, because the other thing that I see often, especially when it comes to AI and what we're capable of doing there, is that the things people think are going to be the most complicated and difficult tasks are never the ones that are the most complicated and most difficult. The ones you tend to think are simple sometimes become the most complicated and difficult. So never compromise on the vision and always design your workflow the way you want to work. And it's an important piece there, is to design it how you want to work. Another big mistake I see happen so often is that people look to things like AI and workflow automation in general to have it take over the current manual, old process they're doing today. And where that many times can be possible, being able to replace that old process with a new process. And yes, it means training your people or telling them this is the way it's going to be. You have to start doing things a little bit different. Always ends up being the more powerful approach that gets you better results. So you always have to try and find a way to design the way you want to work so that you can find the tools or work with a consulting company or integration company to help you find the tools to make that happen. So then we talk about how many AI services there are out there. There's a lot of companies out there that are doing AI and creating different AI platforms to work. There's the obvious large cloud integration companies. There's the people of the Amazons and IBMs and Microsoft. And then there's a number of different smaller companies that are coming up that are becoming large companies quickly, that are these aggregates where they'll work with 20 or 30 different AI services and wrap them under one umbrella. So how do you choose? In my opinion, there's kind of two ways, right? It's those two different types. There's going with a single system, which, in my opinion, if you go with single systems, you better have some really strong technical expertise in-house or a partner with very strong technical expertise to build those for you. Or if you want more of a one-stop shop, that makes it much, much simpler, but has a cost that's going to come with that simplicity, you go to a service aggregate who can actually bring together, I think the one that I see probably has 30 or 40 AI services under one roof, under a single API. Talk about simple, it's incredibly simple to be able to automate that into a workflow from a design or from an implementation perspective. But you definitely pay for it. The key thing is, whatever you want to get into, test before you buy. Make sure you are able to see this system working with your content in your environment and getting the results you expect to get before you ever buy. In every system I've seen out there, that is possible. So you should expect that and demand that. And the last point, again, don't do it alone. Do it with someone who knows this space, knows these tools inside and out. So the keys to unlocking success. Every workflow is a snowflake. No asset management system out of the box. No company, no software out of the box is going to do exactly what you need for your workflow. Flexibility is the key to being able to work in any of these tools. And being able to unlock the true potential of AI is finding that partner, focus on it, who knows it inside and out, that can get into your systems, your way of working, your kind of content, help direct you to be able to find best fit for you and your work. So with that, I was going to jump over and show you a quick example. So this is a system out of the box. There's a cloud-based asset management system that anyone can get into very quickly and easily for extremely little cost. And out of the box, I just want to give you an idea of what kind of things you get. If I open an asset, this asset had no metadata on it, has never had anyone touch it and manually add anything to it. And built-in tools that come with this, that have no additional integration costs, no customization costs, are things like this Analyze tool. When you select this Analyze tool, it's going to take this content and run it through a Google Analytics, in this case, and it comes back with all these metadata values. Now again, these are pretty good values actually, things like city and flea market and urban area, crowd, market, marketplace, bazaar. This is really powerful with one clip. This is incredibly powerful when you consider that this system out of the box, you can set this up in about 5 minutes that says every single asset you ingest into here or scan into here can have this metadata applied to it automatically. But where it really becomes more interesting to me is the fact that because of their openness of their APIs, in this system, if I switch over real quick to an actual client system, being able to leverage APIs, you're able to change the look and feel of a system, be able to do things like creating subclips where a user puts in an in point and out point and runs something and generates subclips, right? But where the AI comes in is doing things like automated transcription service. In this example, this client came and initially talked to their integrator and said that, we want to have transcription with Amazon. And the integrator said, well, are you sure that you want Amazon? Have you tried this person in this company and this company? And the answer was no. That was just the only one they had heard of. So they ended up integrating with one of those aggregates. And they were able to test with 5 different transcription engines against their content before finding the one that they wanted. But in all of that testing, they only did one integration. And at the end of the day, they saved tremendous amounts of money over building anything themselves. And they implemented this entire thing within weeks. So this is just a quick example just to show you there are things out there like this tool and others similar to it that are deploying these things today. This stuff is available and it's ready for people. And with that, take any questions that anyone has.
I have a couple of comments, questions.
Sure.
James Snyder, Library of Congress. So we've been dealing with this for quite a while. And in fact, one of the things that we're working on, placing our existing cataloging and physical asset management broader, it looks like is going to be made up of different vendors, parts, to accomplish the world's largest asset collection. And so a couple of comments, if I could.
Yeah.
The first is, for those who have collections of any size, don't forget your physical collections, because the physical collections and their digital assets keep the physical. And many people assume out of the gate that they're not going to, and then suddenly discover, oh, we have motion picture film. Well, we probably shouldn't throw that away. Or, oh, we have, really important things where we might want to do a digitization later in the future where we can get something better. So keep in mind your physical assets and their matching digital assets and how you together. And then the second comment is not aimed necessarily at the concept in general, but at what goes behind that concept, which is one of the challenges we've run into and one of the jobs that we do at the Library of Congress. We manage something called the Library of Congress Authority, which is the standardized naming convention for things. So when you say marketplace, what does that mean? say, Amazon Marketplace. What does that really mean? And so one of the things that we've noticed in working with media partners, because we're the copyright office, we get a whole bunch of stuff coming in and we get requests for a whole bunch of stuff out again. One of the things we've realized is that different organizations use different terms, or they use the same term for different. So one of the challenges behind this concept is, what is the standardized, or is there going to be, or should there be? Probably yes, at least for some terms, there should be standardized naming for things that we can come to common agreement on. Because otherwise, if you have an organization that bases things on Library of Congress authorities, or somebody who does completely their own way, and you try and meld those two at some point in the future where you have a searchable database of a bunch of assets from a couple of different organizations or a number of different, suddenly you're going to have to go reconcile a whole bunch of terms. And especially in this day and age where we've got, media consolidation, broadcast, whatever, having huge digital collections come together and common naming thing is going to be a significant challenge to be able, once you've named things with AI and you've gotten your asset management system going, well, that's all very nice, but when you take two asset management, try to make them work together, how are they going to?
No, so it's a good point, and it's interesting when we talk about standardized taxonomies and being able to work with one or multiple taxonomies, even when you're working across multiple organizations. One of the powers of using these automated tools is the fact that you can implement those kinds of things. You can have the AI say, I want the AI to go through and find what's in this shot or what's in this content, but I want to restrict its options. It can only choose from these valid options. So if it sees, a ball in this scenario, right, for a sports, right, we know that because we're shooting a soccer game that's a soccer ball, and that's the only option that's in there. If we're shooting something that's political content, and we know we're working with a group of candidates in that political content, we might work with facial recognition to be able to automatically identify the candidates that are in there. But with that facial recognition, we're going to limit it specifically to the group of people we care about. So we're not tagging or attempting to tag all the extra people that are in the scenes. So being able to set up and configure AI to specifically work within the parameters of the taxonomies that you have is a very important piece to this, because I agree. You don't want to be able to let it kind of go crazy and just be able to identify everything that it could possibly identify, right? You want to control that it's going to come down and find the kind of tags that actually matter for you and your organization internally, but also the kind of tags that are going to matter how you disseminate that content out into the world. And it's another thing to keep in mind with the concept of taxonomies is that, in my opinion, most organizations have two. You have your internal metadata. You have that stuff that's really important for how your business works and how it flows and how people in your organization are going to be able to find that content. But then you also have your outward-facing taxonomy. And that's metadata that travels with the content, metadata that is part of how it's going to get distributed. And that metadata can be drastically different at times from how people are finding it inside. So being able to keep all of that in balance is a very important part of how you design that system of how you're going to identify things using AI to be able to help manage all those different kinds of
Maybe to the tech room, maybe we can change presentations already, gain a bit of time. I was wondering, you mentioned we need a good testing, of course, to understand which kind of services are best for the use case. And of course, every system is different and everybody might have a different purpose. Do you have a test methodology or something, a process where you think that's the best to test?
Yeah, no, definitely. In my opinion, the best way to test this is, again, working with one of the systems out there that doesn't require a heavy lift of being able to deploy hardware and a large cost to get into. But using some of these systems that are like these cloud-based systems or cloud hybrid systems, you can actually put your content into the system and actually try the automations with your content. And working with any integration partner or consulting company that does a lot of this kind of work, they should be able to assist you in doing that. So that, for example, you can see exactly what kind of results would come from doing a OCR kind of process on your content, or doing facial recognition on your content. Sometimes people might take a little bit of setup and configuration time to do this, so there may be small consulting fees or something you might have to pay to do those setups, but in my opinion, they're always going to be well worth it. Always be able to go in with your eyes open, testing with your specific content and your specific, the tools that you want to get the information you need.
Okay, great.
Anything else? Thank you very
No
much.
more questions? Thanks, Jason.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please tap the like button and also subscribe to our channel to receive notifications when we add new content. For more information about us, please visit SMPTE.org. We'll see you next time.